It's my honor and privilege to have on with us today Ernie LaPointe, the great-grandson of Sitting Bull. Hello, Ernie. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Your book, Sitting Bull, His Life and Legacy, is a wonderful read, definitely soul-stirring, eye-opening, something that should be required reading in every history class. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
The history of the Native American, how it's been documented and depicted in history books, in Hollywood, in the way people regard it and talk about it, and the actuality of it. It's not always been the same thing. Let's talk about what the biggest misconception is of Native American history in America.
I think the first thing is, I go out east, like around Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and I've been invited to speak at schools, different and universities, and even the teachers and the college professors out there, they have no idea who we are as Native people, because what they know about us is through the movies and by historians who wrote books about our people. So this is why I did this book, kind of basically on the context of educating others about who we are as a people. We're not savages or bloodthirsty killers or anything like this. We're human beings who lived with the earth in a spiritual way of life. And to get to know us, you have to come and be amongst us to learn who we are. And basically, all these books are written about my grandfather are written by a non-native who has a translator in between. I was talking to somebody else who didn't speak English. So again, there goes the part of the translation. There's a lot of misunderstandings and mispronunciations in our language and our names. So I think, like I said in my book, I think it's about time for us to come forth and really tell who we are as a people.
Your great-grandfather was called Sitting Bull, but can you give us the actual Lakota pronunciation?
His real name was Tatunka Iotake, and that translated into English means a buffalo bull who sits down. It doesn't mean sitting bull.
Right.
And, this is where, like I was telling you earlier, the mispronunciation, misconceptions of the names of our people. So it's really a chore for us to now to try to re-educate, I guess. Educate the people, not re-educate. They didn't know who we are in the first place.
Right. For those of us who have studied the spiritual connection to the earth that the Native Americans have had and continue to have, describe the way of life of the Lakota tribe.
Well, in my younger days, and I was, back in the 50s and 60s, our people really couldn't do the ceremonies that we do now, or we did before. We were the only nation of people in this country that could not practice our prayer ceremonies because the government put a kind of a boundary on what we can do and what we can't do.
Isn't that amazing? So here's a country founded on religious freedom that's denying the founders of the actual founders of the country from expressing their own religious freedom. Yeah,
that's basically what it was. And they were always, when I was a little child growing up on a reservation in Pine Ridge, on Saturday evening or so, there'd be a guy on horseback come to our little house, and it would, he was a native guy. He would talk to my mom and dad. He would, in Lakota, he would tell them, tomorrow, you have to go to church. And, everybody would say, sure. And then next Sunday morning, about 6, 7 o'clock, you'll see him on the top of a ridge or something. A couple of guys on horses. They go all these little homes and tell the people, you got to go to church. So, this is where I was one of the fortunate ones that never ended up in the boarding school, but I still had to go to church, and that kind of turned me off to going to church as a young child, because why would I have to go someplace where I should go on my own free will and not be told to go? Mm-hmm. This is so. And then when I was there, it was really boring, to me. I don't know, because in our ceremonies we do now, we have a good time. We had laughter, and our singing is really it's serious, but we don't take it seriously. We show humor amongst each other, because this is a concept in our culture that we have to show our emotions in front of the spirits, is laughter, and sometimes you have to show your humbleness and shed a few tears in the ceremony, about things. But this is the extremes of the culture, is how we practice it, and it's a spiritual way of life. It's not a religion, really, because you get up in the morning and what I do here is I get up in the morning, I smudge myself, my house, my wife and I, and with sage and sweetgrass. And then I say my prayers. I have a little room in here that I talk to the spirits. And then I do it in the evening before, after the sun goes down. So this is basically my way of dealing with society, how it is now, and trying to re-educate the people about who we are as a people.
We're talking with Ernie LaPointe, the great-grandson of Sitting Bull. His book, Sitting Bull, His Life and Legacy, is essential reading. When you grew up on the Pine Ridge Reservation, was it a communal existence?
Well, yes, it was in the beginning, and then as time progressed forward, this real people taking sides on each other. Mm-hmm. Because when we were children, when I was a child growing up, I would see my mother tell me these stories about my grandfather. Yet she showed me by example what she was talking about, I guess, in the way of compassion and generosity. And my mother and father had cattle, and she would cut out a steer in the fall or in the spring, and they would take it down the creek, and my old grandfather would go down there, and he would do a prayer with it and then take its life. And then people would just, we had no telephones or nothing, so people would just show up. They would bring gifts, flour, potatoes or something, and for exchange, my mother would divvy up this meat and give it to these people. And, it would be for about a week that we would all have a little social gathering kind of a thing. And, every spring and fall she would do this. So you didn't have refrigerators, so they would dry the meat and stuff. And, it was a good time when we did this. They'd bring a drum, sing a few songs, and, it was a good time, dancing and telling stories and to the children, that was there. And it kind of showed us. My mother showed me her compassion, generosity for the people that's around her that didn't have the resources to, so they shared with each other. And I don't know, that kind of went off to the far side, I think, now, because they don't do that anymore. I mean, people don't have that kind of generosity. They don't show their generosity and compassion anymore like they did in the 50s, and I remember.
Yeah, even growing up in the 70s, for me, there was a feeling of community in the neighborhood. Now you're hard-pressed to know what your neighbors' names are.
Right, and then when you leave the house, you almost have to lock your doors,
Oh, always.
In the res, we didn't have to do that.
Right. Ernie, you grew up, you lost your parents before you were 18 years old, and then you joined the military. You were stationed in Korea, Turkey, throughout the United States, Germany, and you did a tour in Vietnam in 70 and 71. Thank you for your service. Were you drafted, or did you join?
I joined. I just I don't know what the concept of my real concept of joining the military was. The stories that was told to me about the men's societies, and in the old days, when during my grandfather's time, he was part of the Strong Heart Society, and I took the military as kind of a same idea, but it turns out it wasn't the same thing, because these guys in the societies out here were compassionate, prestigious men who took care of the camp, who provided for the camp, protected the camp. And in the military, it was a little different, and it wasn't all that. What the warrior societies did. In the military is a different division between like a civilian life and a military life. And the military life was really a little more into the, going to war and stuff instead of, protecting or being a counselor or anything like the societies taught us. So it was kind of a rude awakening for me, and I think the majority of the native boys on the reservations, they were enlistees. They joined when Vietnam was going on, and the majority of them were either airborne or special forces or rangers or Navy SEALs. I mean, I was in the airborne. I was in the 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam, and I really, had a rude awakening about a lot of things about the war, because I was taught through my mother about the honor system that we had in our culture, my great-grandfather's culture, and I didn't experience any kind of honor like that, when I was in war. So war is heck, you don't ever want to go to war. If you ever been faced with it, that's no place to be. I always advise people, I say, make sure that's what you want to do before you go, because it ruins the rest of your life.
I guess the fascination for me, it seems like Native Americans are able to assimilate and forgive the past and contribute in light of the adversity that the founding of this nation may have caused them. Am I making sense on that?
Well, yeah, kind of basically, I think what you mean is, we always look to the future. We don't look to the past. And this is one of the things that like the concept of the Battle of Little Bighorn over here in Montana. There's books come out every so often. Some guy come up with a new angle to the battle, and I told them here, I had this one guy ask me questions, and I told him, I said, what are you writing? He says, I'm writing about the Little Bighorn, battle. And I told him, I said, it seems to me like, from one of the books I've read about the Battle of Little Bighorn, the authors usually just trying to kind of glorify the losers at the battle, because they lost the battle, but they're trying to immortalize Custer, as some kind of a great man or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to judge Custer or anybody, but this is kind of like what the books are showing. Like right. He was some kind of they call him the greatest Indian fighter of the plains, and I've looked around through the history books and everything, and I never knew where he really engaged any Northern Plains tribes. I mean, the only thing he ever did was the Washita in Kansas when he attacked the Cheyenne village in the morning and killed women and children, everybody. But basically, when he came up here, now I was joking around because, Lakota way of life, we always tell stories that are funny. You try to make everybody have a grin. And I told him, I said, the Little Bighorn, I was giving a talk, and I said, they said Custer was the greatest Indian fighter of the plains. I said, I'm going to clarify something. I said, I'm a Lakota. So I'm not an Indian. I said, so when Custer was the greatest Indian fighter, he must have went to India and fought against Gandhi's people. Said, he came up here in the Northern Plains and faced the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapahoes, and he was in for a rude awakening,
Right. Right. Well, that is odd. That one of the strangest footnotes in American history is the title Indians, which is a mistake on Christopher Columbus's part, which he thought he landed in India.
Right. And then the name just kind of stuck, just like Sioux. Yeah. Sioux was stuck on us So now my main purpose is, I'm not a Sioux and I'm not an Indian. I'm what we call ourselves, in them days, we call ourselves a Tiatuan Lakota. The Tiatuan means we're always looking for a different home site. We had I tell people, again, it's like in a form of a funny thing, I said, I think we invented the first RV,
Okay, right, because you're nomadic, I gotcha. Ernie LaPointe with us, the author of Sitting Bull, His Life and Legacy, written from the viewpoint of the great-grandson of Sitting Bull. Let's talk about the Sun Dance and their rituals.
Okay. When our pipe was given to us, they always, some say 19 generations ago, this white buffalo calf woman brought us this gift to the men, which is the sacred pipe. We call it our chanupa, and we still have that pipe at Greengrass on the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation up here. The keeper of the pipe, his name is Orville Looking Horse, and he's the guardian of the pipe. So the original pipe is still have it, and with this pipe came ceremonies attached with it, which one of them is the Sun Dance, and the Sun Dance is what my great-grandfather did all his life, and it is a ceremony that you do for the people. You don't do it for yourself. You're doing this for the people. You give your blood, sweat, and tears for the people to live, and for the future generations to come forth and to relearn. It's like most cultures around the world have this. My wife's from Germany. We went to Germany one winter time, and it was going towards spring. It was in February, and they have this Fasching, they call it in Germany. It's basically the same idea of the Sundance. Where the Sundance is you bring new life. You do this so that new life will come, and when you do the self-sacrificing, it's for the people to live, for the old and the young to get together and share their stories. That's why we respect our elders so much. And then we don't, in the old days, when my great-grandfather was here, the children are never ignored because we call them wakanja. That's a short word version of wakan ichage. That something sacred is growing. So you always nurture and take care of it so it doesn't grow up to be, like it is now, where they have no future or they have no self-respect for themselves. So you almost have to nurture them, and how to do that is you bring them to the elders, and the elders tell them the stories of our people, our spiritual life and way of life, and kind of slowly bring them into the ceremonial ways, which is the purification ceremonies, which they call sweat lodge and all, but we call it the oinikaka, which is a purification ceremony for purifying your spirit, your soul. And then you have the hombelechapi, which is you cry for, that's what that means, hombelechapi, is you cry for a vision through the night, for yourself. That's for yourself to what you're going to do for the year, and only one ceremony came with this pipe, which is what they call the Ishinati Awichilo, which is for the women. See, the women don't have to go to sweat lodges, or they don't have to do all these things that men do. We put ourselves through this suffering and seeking, where the women have it every month through the menstrual cycle. That's why they call it Ishinati, and they purify their selves through the blood that comes out of them. And while they're going through this menstrual cycle time, they're being taught their visions, and they're being taught how to be good mothers and good caretakers of the home and stuff. So they already have this gift. They have a wisdom that is phenomenal to us. As men, we seek all our lives to try to understand just one portion of what the woman's wisdom is.
We spend all our days trying to figure them out, don't we?
Yeah.
Ernie LaPointe with A Sitting Bull, His Life and Legacy. Let's talk about the Native American connection to the earth through hunting, fishing, and utilization of the renewable resources of the great beasts. And it's something that I think if more people would connect to, this would be a better world.
Right. What, in the beginning, it goes back, all the way back to us, our stories that tell us is there's this great race. I don't know if you heard about this, but this is around the Black Hills here. They had this big, great race. This is a creation story, kind of. After the Creator created the four-legged and the two-legged, they had the choice: who's going to consume the flesh of the other. So they said, okay. Well, they said we'll have a big race around the Black Hills, because the Black Hills is considered the heart of the Turtle Island, which we call this the Turtle Island, the U.S. continent. So the four-legged and the two-legged started this race. They had to run 4 laps around the Black Hills. So they did this. In that 4th lap, the buffalo's leading the pack, and they said on the horn of the buffalo sat this magpie. And just as he got close to the finish line, the magpie jumped off the horns and crossed the finish line. So he won the race with the two-legged, since the birds have 2 legs. So that, in turn, says that the two-legged has to consume the flesh of the four-legged, which is the buffalo, the deer, the elk, the antelope, and all this. So, and they have to eat the grass, and we have to eat their flesh. But in turn of this, you live to understand, respect the four-legged for giving their flesh for you to survive. So you utilize everything of that animal, of that four-legged. The buffalo, you use everything about him. The same way with the elk, the deer, the antelope. Every part of him you use for a purpose, and you don't overkill. Like you might take one buffalo. They said there were millions of them on the plains here, but you took one for just, your family and your extended family. Your within your family, your cousins and whatever. They consumed this one, and then they used every part of this buffalo, the bones, the sinew, and this is where we really hold in high regard the buffalo, because the woman who brought us the pipe came from that nation, the white buffalo calf woman. So we really hold in high regard this buffalo as a savior and as our food. It's hide made into teepees, clothing, whatever else we need. It's all attached to this buffalo. It's, certain hooves you use to scrape. You use its sinew, and it's for your sewing your clothes. So everything attached to this buffalo is sacred to us, even to now,
And it seems like everything in the world, especially the natural world, is sacred to the Native American.
Right. When we go out to pick anything, like we go pick out this what's called timsila, wild turnips out there. There might be a whole field of them, but you don't take them all. You take like every third plant, every third one, leave the others. So next year, more abundance will come back. Same with picking sage. Anything you pick, you always give an offering. You always, like I'd take tobacco out, and I would offer a pinch of tobacco before I picked anything. I would say, and the same way with getting choke cherries. You might have a big choke cherry bush there with all these cherries on it. You don't take it all because you always leave some for the birds, because the birds love to eat the berries too. So you share with them, and you always make an offering to the bush or the plant or whatever that next year it'll keep growing the abundance, and you never overtake, pick anything or overkill. This is one of the concepts of how our cycle of life exists, evolution, I guess you might say, of the native. And you always respect and honor in prayer for these things that they will grow again, so that the future generations will have their ways with them. And you teach them this is what we do as Lakota men and women.
Any hunting or fishing?
I fished. I haven't hunted. The only place I go hunting is a grocery store.
Well, let me tell you, when you're ready, you tell me, and I will definitely take you on a hunt.
Cool. That'd be great, man.
Well, I could spend all day with you. I do want to tell people Sitting Bull, His Life and Legacy is the name of the book. Ernie LaPointe, great-grandson of Sitting Bull. Say his name one more time, the proper way.
Okay. Tatchunka Iotake.
Ernie, tell us about how people can get in touch with you and get your book, and not only your book, but you also have some DVDs. Tell us how the book came about.
Yeah, the book, first thing I did was the 2 DVDs. Part 1 was called Making of a Leader, and Part 2 was called Thank You, Grandfather, We Still Live. It's an oral history about the life of my great-grandfather. And, it's in our culture, our stories are told to us, so we always have to use our ears and observe with our eyes. For example, and then there's this college professor from Toledo seen the DVDs, and she said maybe I should write it and put it in a book. And because she said most people around the country here would read, because that's what they do in schools. She says they read, so that's why I did the book. The book isn't as big as the 2 DVDs, because we went to all the actual locations of what I talk about in the book, and we went to Canada and filmed up there and stuff. And so the 2 DVDs can be you can read the reviews on them at a website called realcontact.com. That's REEL contact, all one word, .com. And many people put reviews on there when they've seen it, so you can read the reviews and read about the DVDs on there.
You say, thank you, great-grandfather, we're still living. What is the Native American belief in the afterlife?
We think that we are here for like a purpose, a learning purpose of how we take care of one another and how we take care of the mother, which is the earth. And then that gives us a better understanding back in the spirit world to learn about the Makasi Tomini, the universe. The universe is the creator of the Wakantanka. So we understand all these little aspects out here in what they call the Milky Way universe. And this is all the creation of the creator, because there's many, many of them, they say, through our ceremonies, galaxies that are out there in a vast space. And we're just a small part of it, this little universe we're in.
Yeah, and we just keep continuing on and growing and developing and nurturing and who knows what, right?
Right. If anybody wants to contact me, they can do it. They can log on to my website called SittingBullFamilyFoundation.org. SittingBullFamilyFoundation.org. You also have a Amazon.com Ernie LaPointe, LaPointe page. Right. Uh-huh.
Well, I look forward to speaking with you again, my friend. It's a real pleasure and an honor to speak with you and to get this piece of history presented to us and our listeners. Thank you so much, Ernie LaPointe.
Thank you.